Hey, what's up, comrades? Hope everyone's doing well. We're here to talk about Talentum, Nya Nya Paradise, and Nero this week. So we're going to start with Ruby. You remember Ruby from way back, like my second video, maybe? Oh, no, the fourth video. Let's see, the fourth video I did. That was Ruby Winter Shopper, but we finally got to the whole crew here in the main story, so I figured we'd talk about her. So, Ruby is doing a pretty risque stream with Ingrid, and we're watching it with Yan and Dollar. The girls wonder about the popularity of her stream and also about how she's become so popular. We then point out that the chat has turned the conversation over to Ruby's lover. Dollar and Yan talk about how there's no significant other for Nikke's, and the whole thing's kind of ridiculous, and they're not a big fan of the idea and whatnot. On the stream, Ruby notices the chat is asking about her boyfriends, and she declares she has one. He's handsome, kind, and rich. And Dollar and Yan start betting on how soon Ruby was going to call us, which she does almost immediately with tear emojis, or reaches out to us. We meet up with Ruby later, and she begs us to be her fake boyfriend for her couples blog. We agree, of course, because she's banging. We're going to start with a date on Royal Road. So we meet up the next day and start the vlog. We get introduced as a boyfriend. We go on a shopping spree. After shopping, we notice that there's a person in the chat that's trying to get Ruby's attention and they're hot. Ruby should pay attention to her. Later, we find out that the blog was a huge hit, so she wants a follow-up. We get her agree to head over to Royal Road. We follow Ruby around. She shows off her corporation, the operations. It's like an Amazon-style warehouse, and apparently she's super rich, like Jeff Bezos, because that's what she's running, along with her streaming and being a sexy Nikke. We notice that the same guy from before is trying to pimp himself out to Ruby on the stream chat, and after the stream, Ruby is again excited that it went so well. We bring up this creeper. She's very dismissive. There's tons of guys like that. That's just how it is. It's part of life of being like an e-thought. But then she invites us to go somewhere a little more private. So we head to a nearby cafe. Ruby gets a little concerned after reviewing the chat logs. She does think that if we can pretend to be her boyfriend again, this will dissuade some of this like behavior, especially from this guy. So we agree to do it. A few days later, we're in an office room with tables full of boxes. They're all presents for us. So we open them. That's the stream. And then she reminds her Lupins, which is what she calls her streamy people, that she's in a relationship, so to let her be. Afterwards, she talks about how lonely she's going to be without her boyfriend. Aww. We talk about continuing the relationship, but she blows it off, and we separate. Later in the evening, Yan calls. Ruby's never returned home after the stream, so we rush off to find her. We rush back to where we separated and find her being cajoled into a car by this big bruising dude. So we rush up and knock the shit out of him, One Punch Man style. And then she latches onto us because she's so grateful, because she was essentially getting kidnapped because she can't fight back against humans. Because she could physically resist, but because she's a Nikke, she can't harm others, right? At this point, as we were holding her, she confesses that she loves us. We walk her home hand in hand. She's super excited that we're official now and talks about all the shopping we're going to do, including scheduling a clothes shopping trip. As we approach Talentum's headquarters, Dollar and Yan see us. Dollar shouts out that she's glad Ruby was able to finally get her wish to date us. Ruby's flustered because she's clearly been talking about this with her friends this whole time, and we leave them be to like gossip and chit-chat. Before we go to sleep that night, we trade I love yous with Ruby. Aww, it's so sweet. Next up is Dala. So we get a call from Mustang. He's very concerned about Dala. She has been doing stuff on the darknet. It's illegal stuff. All the illegal stuff in the arc is done on the darknet, right? He doesn't want her activity to reflect poorly on Talentum or on Tetra, so we agree to check it out and help. So we contact Dala, but she does not respond. So we head over there. Once we get over to her like warehouse or her palace, her like skyscraper or whatever, we get a meeting with Dollar. She avoids talking about the darknet and just talks about how we just like to care for Nikke's, gives us a hard time or whatever. She then heads to the meeting. So we decide to investigate the darknet. We get a link to the darknet from Mustang, and as we're searching around, Shifty contacts us, and she's like, "What are you doing? You can't be on there. It's legal stuff." So we diffuse that and tell her it's fine. We're doing something for Mustang, and Mustang's her boy because he's my favorite. So we find a username Royal Dollar selling illegal ID chips. So we set up to buy in person. It turns out that the seller is Dollar, and she's doing illegal stuff on the darknet. We try to talk to her about stopping her activity. She of course refuses. The Ark is a place where you can do anything with money, according to her, just like the old American way of corporate capitalism. She gives us a gift along with the chip and leaves. We head back to our room. The gift she gave us is some racy lingerie. She then calls us laughing about it. She says we can hang out, but she doesn't want to lecture about anything that she's doing. So we head over and hang out. She thinks it's a call. We overhear the word corpses. We ask about it. and promises discretion, she admits she purchases corpses from the outer rim collectors. She sells them for transplants and then uses the profit to increase the technology of the Ark. So it's like she has some sort of like twisted justification for what she does, but hey, good for her. She then takes us to the super nice restaurant that drives us home in her fancy, expensive car. Later on, we're watching a news broadcast. It's all about the organ trade getting out of control in the outer rim. During this, we receive a concerning message from Dollar. We try calling her, but she doesn't answer. Shifting then helps us identify where she sent the message from. Of course, it's the outer rim. And it's in Heavenly Ascension territory. Heavenly Ascension is like the big terrorist organization in the Ark. So we can't call the police because outer rim and illegal stuff. So if Dolly gets caught up in that whole thing, she'll be mind wiped, which we don't want to do. So when we head to the outer rim, we find some gangsters talking about how they knocked out a Tetra Nikke. They are concerned because if Mustang found out, he will turn the outer rim into a charnel house because Mustang doesn't fuck around. So they run off so they don't have to get caught or anything. So we come over and we get Dala back to her like healthy self. We do some aid. She questions why we came at her for her, and we ignore her, get her back into a position, and drag her out of the fucking outer room. Later on, Dollar is able to completely recover. She contacts us about a date to some bar. We meet with her, and she's talking about the retaliation of the gang members and everything that's going on and how she's going to take care of it. She then hangs up. She answers a phone and talks about retaliation against the gang members. She hangs up, and we celebrate her recovery. She tells us more about her wealth acclamation. She works with the Missilists to gradually grow wealth and all this stuff, and her goal is to be known as the richest person in the Ark. And at the end, we kiss, which ends her Bond story. So next up and last of the Talentum crew, which there's no squad leader that I can figure out. But anyway, is Yan. So we go to see Yan. We just want to buy a filing cabinet, so we go back and forth a little bit. She gets us to spend 100 times the credits that we were going to spend, so we can get an automatic filing cabinet with all these like bells and whistles and whatever. Bringing it back, the counters are aghast. We spent so much money. They bash us for purchasing supplies. Oh, they ban us from purchasing supplies going forward. Next time we hit up Yan's store, the counters come with us to do the purchasing because they can't trust us. And since we're just waiting around hanging out, Yan takes us to the sitting room in the back where we have some tea. After a while, we come out and find the counters have also spent way over budget. Yan explains how, at that point, how she tricks people into spending more and thanks us for our patronage as we help the counters carry all their fucking shit home. So the counters are now too close to being in financial troubles from Yan's shop alone, and they vow never to go there anymore. But Emma has clogged up the sink in the kitchen with her cooking, so they have to go figure it out and get new sink stuff or do whatever. So they devise a plan that we're gonna head to the store, but no one's gonna enter the store, so that no one's tempted to buy a bunch of bullshit they don't need. And so we head over there. We're hovering outside the store. Yan approaches and is like, "What are you guys doing?" And Yan gives her a shopping list. We explain the situation about none of us being able to control our shopping, and she mentions that she will go in and get the stuff without trying to upsell us on anything. Just this one time. So she takes us all to the VIP room where we can sit down and have tea. She takes care of the whole thing. Turns into oolong tea. Rappy loves it. And so we ask Yan about it. She mentions how expensive it is, and we go back and forth about the price. How does Yan get it and such? And we want to buy a case for Rappy because she's our maid waifu in the chronologically or canonologically. Anyway, Yan makes us a deal. We go and be her assistant for one day, and then we can have a case of 10, like a 10 case of oolong tea for free. And so we agree, but then we realize Yan tricked us again. So we go, because now we got to go. We open the store the next day, and she goes to rest, leaving us in charge. So with no training, as it is not cost effective, we just have to figure it out. So first of all, Vesti comes to get some food from Emma. We upsell her to spend double what she wanted to spend, and Yan is very pleased. And the next Frima, one of my waifus, comes. We get her to buy wheels for her futon at a very high price, and so she agrees to do that. And we're pleased with our ability to emulate Yan as much as possible because we're just thinking, what would Yan do, and then do that. So we start to question what we were doing, but feel elated with every sale. Like we're questioning the morality of the whole thing. Yan eventually comes out, offers to teach us some more, and maybe wager something on our ability to learn. Later, Ruby comes in streaming about the new store opening that we are running. She mentions that Yan is involved as well, and despite being squad mates, they are not close. She approaches us with the challenge to get her to spend a bunch of money. So the counters watch and discuss how ruthless of a businessman we've become under Yan's tutelage. We get Ruby to max out a credit card and then go on an installment plan for more things so she can spend more. Later, Yan takes us to a fancy restaurant. We discuss more business opportunities, including opening a Dollar General style store, and she loves that idea. She also compliments us for learning from her and growing more sales skills. We talk about it is because she has inspired us, which causes her to become somewhat bashful. We then get into an afterwards of sort, like much later. The Dollar General store is very successful and spreads our goal to get all the money in the Ark. Which wraps up Yan and Talentum, all their Bond stories. All right, so now the event of the week is Nya Nya Paradise, which stars our cat girl in the house, Nero. Nero. So we start off with a couple who's fed up. They're fed up of taking care of a cat, so they just leave it in the dumpster. Later on, as we're relaxing at our house, of course, we get interrupted when Nero shows up. She talks about how a kitten has been found by some other cats, and it looks like a stray, and that she has her name. So the cat was abandoned because cats who just grow up in the wild don't have names, so this one does have a name. So we promise to come help her rescue her. Over at the dump, we find Ruru. She does not like us at all. Also not a huge fan of Nero, so she runs off. Nero mentions that cats take a lot of patience, and so we have to continue our charm offensive to get her. We follow Ruru over to a restaurant. She eats some garbage, and the owner tries giving her some food, but she runs off again. Elsewhere, she's drinking dirty water from, like, the rain in the gutters and whatnot. Nero sets out some good food and water, along with some catnip, and then we hide and watch Ruru come over, eat it, and love it. So we continue to follow Ruru around for a bit. She wanders around, ends up in a factory area, and then she falls into some water. At that point, Nero runs and rescues her. She talks about abandoned cats in the Ark and how it's become like a real problem and whatnot. She speaks with Ruru. Ruru doesn't want to go to the shelter because... but she's too domesticated to live on her own as a wild cat. And so Nero asks her to come to the shelter for a little bit so she can teach her how to be a wild cat, which convinces Ruru to come to the shelter. And Nero's going to train her. When we head over to the shelter for this training, we run into Biscuit and Leona. Leona, we haven't got to yet. She's the lion girl. And Biscuit is our favorite dog girl. All the other animals respond to Ruru being there. Max and the dogs love her. Timmy the lion is scared because Timmy is scared of small animals, even though he's a lion. So he freaks the fuck out. Then we head outside with Nero and work on claws and grooming. We continue to train Ruru for a while. And then the cat food, right? So just like with Biscuit and the dog food, Nero brings out cat food and is like, would you like to try? And we're like, yeah, fuck it, why not? But why? Anyway, Ruru goes to look out the window, and she sees a cat being loved by her master. And then Nero thinks out loud about how Ruru wants her owner, and so the shelter is not going to be what she wants. But she's not going to develop any ability to live in the wild either because she's too grown up and is become too accustomed to being taken care of. So the shelter is the best option. But at the same time, they can't force her to be here, so they got to just do the best they can and deal with it. At that point, it starts to rain, and Ruru gets really upset and runs away back over to the dump. We follow her, and she just cries and cries for her parents, the human ones who abandoned her. At some point, Nero comes over and covers her with an umbrella and tells her it's okay to cry, and she can keep crying. So she does while it continues to rain. Finally, at some point, Ruru is finished crying. She's cried it all out, and it says, okay, take me back to the shelter. So we do. We pick her up and put her in our jacket because she's wet and cold so that she can be warm, and we head back to the shelter. Nero does a health examination. At some point, she wakes up and bites us and then falls back to sleep. And then Nero mentions how exhausted Ruru must be from all this stuff, from all the stress and pain and abandonment and all this stuff. And so we hold Ruru as she falls asleep, and then Nero's like, I'm tired too. And so she rests in our lap and falls asleep. A bit later, Nero gets the results. Ruru is going to die. This game is so fucking dark. We meet up with the other girls at the shelter and talk about what we want to do. We want to give Ruru the best life that she can have for like the remaining few days that she has before she's too sick. She's not going to survive. We talk about this with Nero. Nero, mentions that she just gets so angry with all this stuff, but being angry didn't help. So now she just concentrates on helping the animals enjoy their short lives. Later on, Ruru wakes up full of energy. So we take her to the toy store so she can get some hunt. Adme is there. She loves cats, if you remember from her Bond story. She gives Ruru a treat, talks about playing with her later, and we're like, yeah. like that meme with the guy looking the other direction. And we head back to the shelter. We play with her for hours. At some point, she mentions that no one ever played with her like this, and she loved this. Nero tells us that her owners must have been absolutely terrible. So we keep at it. We take Ruru to the Ferris wheel, stuff her with food. Then we go for a walk. Where people all over the place dote on her. In the evening, she brings Nero a flower and mentions that they are alike. And we watch the sunset with her. Later on, we come to visit, and Ruru is hiding. And this is what cats do when they're ill and they're going to pass. So she comes out and requests to go back to the dump. So we take her there so she can die. So she howls for a long time and then finally stops howling because she's dead. At that point, it starts to rain because, Lord Christ, give me strength. Like the fuck. A bit time goes by. We find ourselves back over at the shelter. Biscuit calls us out for not being okay. She's like, "Hey, you're not okay. You need to get some help." Nero and the shelter cats are gonna do send off for Ruru in the back outside, and so we go to join them. And it's pretty sad, not gonna lie. The whole thing. It's just cats meowing and being sad about losing like a sister essentially. After all that, we get an epilogue. A few days later, we find one of Ruru's toys in like just lying around our room. So we miss her. And then we get this like dream or something where it's like we're like looking into the heavens and then we hear the voice of Ruru and she's like, "Thank you so much for taking care of me. I'm so happy. I'm in Nya Nya paradise," which is like cat heaven. And that's the end of the event. Wild shit. So now it's time to talk about Nero and her bond story. So of course we're finishing a day. We're just trying to take a rest in our office when we notice a cat's tail under her desk. It's Nero. She needs our help. There's a yearly test at the shelter to make sure her, Biscuit, Leona, and any of the other animal creatures they want to bring into this game can handle it. Normally, Nero does a great job, doesn't worry about it, doesn't care, but this time it involves water, which she hates. She hates water. She mentions that it's so bad that she grooms herself, doesn't do baths, and only takes like a sip of water a day, so she doesn't have a mind switch, because again, Nikkes don't need water per se. But in 5 days, we'll need to help her find a solution so that she can take on this test and pass it. So we go to take a shower before we start with her training. This causes her to panic and almost burst open the door because she's worried that we might be drowning. So we got ourselves like a real aquaphobic. It's real bad. We take her to the pool. We have her just walk around a few times, and then we're about to dip our toes in and have her do the same. And right as she's about to try this, someone leaps into the pool, which splashes with water. So she freaks out, and we have to hold her and comfort her. So no more training for that day. Later on, we have an epiphany. So we set up 3 tests. We have her carry a cup of water in her head, dodge a squirt gun for 5 minutes, and go to the pool. So we practice the first 2 tests till she masters them completely, which she does in the first day. But she is exhausted emotionally and physically. Time for the 3rd test. The 3rd test is for her to walk along the pool like she did before, but not fall in. So she falls in the pool and we have to comfort her, even though it's just the shallow end, until she's able to calm down. Then she tells us why she's afraid of water. Of course, it's a fucking tragic story because fucking Nikke got us a victory. She found a kitten in an alleyway when she was human, I assume, which was her only friend because she grew up on the streets or something. They loved spending time together. And then at some point there was a torrential rainstorm, which, dun dun dun, killed the cat. God damn it, Gabe. She hated water ever since then. We talk about all the cats in the shelter. She's willing to keep working to overcome her fear because she wants to be there for the cats, and she has to do it. So the day of the test arrive, and the first thing she has to do is dodge 5 water balloons, which she gets. She gets hit by 1 water balloon and freezes. Then she gets hit 2 more times, and we call out to her and tell her to remind herself about the cats, and she can do this. So she's able to pass the test finally. Afterwards, we tease her by suggesting a water-related date. She then grooms us with her tongue. Yeah, boy. Then promises us groomings whenever we want. A bit later at the shelter, she's laying with all her cats and promises that she'll be with them forever. The end. And that wraps up this week's Nikke adventure. So go ahead, like, share, subscribe, comment, and I will catch you guys later. Bye.